So we recently witnessed a big crash in crypto and everyone started to panic. It was from $111,000 on Bitcoin down to about roughly $100,000. Now in this video, what I really want to focus on is altcoins because just like I said in previous videos, yes, June is the month to focus on for alt season, specifically the end of this month into the beginning of July. That's the sweet spot. Now, the reason why I said that was because of the pattern-based time frame on Bitcoin dominance topping out. We know Bitcoin dominance has been, soaring to over 64+%. It's closing in on 65% right now. And as we do really kind of think about that, with the recent sell-off across the board for, markets, it started to have a lot of people questioning, is alt season ever going to happen? And that's what we want to actually see. And I did outline that in the video from yesterday. But let's actually talk about a few things. Number one, let's take a quick look into Bitcoin, and then I want to address altcoins. So just like I said, yes, Bitcoin had that nice sell-off to about roughly 100.4K, roughly, right? We're now back to 104K, okay, which is pretty significant. Now, the main thing that I'm focused on here is looking at the 1-year chart. I want to see us really reclaim 104.6K and then hold this level going forward. The weekly candle close is going to be a little bit more important. I'll obviously keep you guys posted when we get closer to that. But Bitcoin still looks pretty good here for that nice reversal. Even on the 7-day, you guys can see that reversal in real time. This is very good to see. This is actually a very good start for a big reversal on Bitcoin as well. Now, outside of Bitcoin, I do want to take a quick look at altcoins, specifically XRP HBAR, and then of course I grabbed ADA and SUI as well because I wanted to have a mix of all of them. When it comes to XRP has just been ranging and it's been consolidating, which is something that I have been outlining on this channel for the last 5 months, ever since January. And even with HBAR, we do have a little bit of a similar, state. The only difference here is that XRP actually has a much more bullish outline compared to, HBAR. For an example, XRP is actually going sideways and it's holding significant lows. HBAR is in a significant downtrend and it's just consolidating in that downtrend. This is what the all-time chart looks like. We have that nice run up and then we have that nice sell-off, which is pretty significant. And then we're just trading sideways, and we have been trading sideways since roughly about March. And the same goes for ADA as well. This is what the 1-year chart looks like. Obviously, if we go to the all-time chart, looks very similar to HBAR. No real major difference at all. And then, of course, SUI. SUI looks a little bit different because it is a fresh launch, but it is also in that same sort of situation where it's in that nice, strong downtrend, and we're waiting for that big pop to the upside. Now, these charts, I'm going to tell you guys right now, and I'm going to be honest with you, these charts are not going to look good until we see Bitcoin reclaim a new all-time high while Bitcoin dominance is dropping. And that's the key thing, right? Even on the recent all-time high swing on Bitcoin, we didn't see Bitcoin dominance drop at all. This is what the last 30 days looks like on Bitcoin dominance. It has been pretty stable. Now, I am focused on this because we are getting very close to a big key level of interest from my point of view. Now, CoinMarketCap is a little bit inconsistent with tracking this, but Bitcoin dominance is actually about roughly 65% right now. It's getting close to that 66 to 67% level. That's a sweet spot. That's where we see a lot of big spikes on the macro, where we do see significant sell-offs. And we go all the way back here to roughly 2017. We go back to, 2018. This was a little bit more shallow. And then we go back to 2019, 2020 as well. And then of course, 2021. So I do think that we're getting very close to that. Now, what could accelerate this market and cause this market to explode to, higher price action? Well, let's actually talk a little bit more about that because we did start to see some pretty big moves happening around central banks. Let's go over here to this update, which we recently got, which was just in President Trump to announce next Fed chair very soon. So if you guys have been missing the big, news happening around the Fed, basically Trump is upset that Fed Chair Jerome Powell, has not cut rates. Now, he definitely has, room to talk here because the ECB has been cutting rates significantly. I'm going to talk about that as well. But this also led to this announcement, which was just in. President Trump says the Federal Reserve is a disaster and calls for a 100 basis point interest rate cut. Now, we do know that this rate cut decision is coming up, right, towards the middle of this month. And if we do get a rate cut decision, it is going to be huge for this market. Now, I personally think the safe assessment here is 25 BPS. We have to watch, wait, and see what happens. But I don't think that we're going to get a 100 basis point rate cut. That's just absurd. But who knows? Anything is possible. If we do get this, this would be absolutely massive. Now, on top of this, here we actually have the post from Truth Social. We have too late at the Fed is a disaster. Europe has had 10 rate cuts. This is why I said he definitely does have room to talk, because, 10 rate cut decisions is insane compared to the fact that we have had 0. Despite him, our country is doing great. Go for a full point rocket fuel. And that's what Trump called this 100 basis point interest rate cut decision, rocket fuel. But what is, 25 BPS? 25 BPS, if we got that, it would be a fair, move. It wouldn't be the 100 basis point that Trump wants, but 25 is a fair assessment. And on top of that, it is still rocket fuel for these markets. Now, talking more so about the ECB did, just recently cut rates on June 5th. We cut our key interest rates by 0.25 percentage points, which is exactly why I think 25 BPS makes sense. Inflation is currently around our 2% target. And also over here, we have the ECB central bank trims interest rates after inflation dips below target. This was from CNBC. And a lot of people are still making fun of Jerome Powell under the post. But it is, listen, it makes sense on why we should be scolding Jerome Powell. I don't understand why we haven't cut rates at all. But I do think that it's better late than never. And I think that this is the month where we do start to see rate cut decisions happen. Now, on top of that, the M2 money supply. So I want to focus on what the ECB has been doing, which is, they cut 10, they already did 10 rate cuts, right? The M2 money supply just hit an all-time high on June 2nd. 21.86 trillion is what we're at now for the M2 money supply. And when we're focused on the EU since the new year has exploded their M2 supply by over $117 billion. They are sitting at 15.7 trillion. This is what happens when we see rate cuts. Now, do I think that this is bullish for fiat currencies? Absolutely not. But this does allow them to print more money. And when we think about the M2 supply globally, this is what we have been noticing around the world. Every other economy has been pushing their M2 supply, while the US has been pretty stable for the most part. But we are getting close to having this explode to the upside, just like China or even the EU. The United States is at 21.86 trillion, just like we have over here from bar chart, 21.86 trillion. We actually look at the US since the new year, we could see how much this has this actually rose. So let's go and look back. So here we have the beginning of the year. This is like towards the end of the year, beginning of the year. So we actually went up by over 300 and almost $6 billion. So we've actually printed more money than the EU. In fact, it's over double. So that's pretty significant, but if we got rate cuts, this would explode to the upside. This would be that rocket fuel for markets, because what we will see is liquidity flood the markets, and everything runs on liquidity. Bull cycles run on liquidity. Bear cycles run on liquidity, contracting. So when we think about what would happen if we saw rate cuts, become a big deal in this month, we will see the US explode their money supply, the M2 supply. Now, if we're thinking about this, let's go over here to this post. So the ECB just cut rates for the 8th time in a year. Follow the money. This is from Thomas Ferrer. And if we actually look at this chart, right, we have that dip, which did account for the dip that we recently just saw on Bitcoin. And this would actually take us to over $160,000, almost $170,000 on Bitcoin if we are going to actually follow the M2 supply chart. But I don't think that we follow it, perfectly. For an example, if we actually look at this chart, when the M2 supply hit a significant high recently, we should have been at over $120,000. We weren't. In fact, if we actually look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin sold off back then. So I don't think that we're going to follow it to a T, but I do suspect that we will get to the point where we hit about $150,000 on Bitcoin. 150, 160 is a key level of interest from my point of view. But this tells us that Bitcoin's going to go much higher. But on top of this, this goes back to the idea of altcoins also exploding to the upside, because if we get rate cut decisions starting in June, we will probably continue to see them throughout the rest of this year, supporting even higher price action across the board for all markets. And liquidity will be increasing drastically around these markets as well. Just like I said many times over in the past, end of June, beginning July, when we start to see altcoins bounce back in a big way, that's when I also suspect that we will see alt season starting. Also, I think that we, pump higher around this entire market into roughly the end of this year, possibly the beginning of 2026. During that time, I will be looking at taking as much profits as I possibly can while keeping moonbags on the sidelines. But it seems as though this market is about to erupt in a huge way, and it's all going to be accelerated by what we see the Fed do this month. Regardless of if the Fed cuts rates or not this month, I do suspect that we will see the market still wake up in a huge way. But so far, we have a nice bounce across the board. Altcoins still look pretty decent, nothing too incredible yet. They're just kind of consolidating. We might see a little bit more pain around altcoins while Bitcoin decides to, what it wants to do, if it wants to go and retest the all-time high, or if it wants to kind of just chop a little bit more. If we do see chop, and if we do see another retest of some nice lows, then we will see altcoins get hit in a big way. But if we do kind of, range and just chop to the upside of, retesting the all-time high, while Bitcoin dominance is as high as it is, altcoins might take the back seat until we see Bitcoin dominance actually drop or top out officially. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord on the description below. And with that being said, guys, this is Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.